Alright, so this lesson we're going to be talking about lofts and lofting. So basically it's a type of extrusion that occurs between various cross sections. Alright, so the easiest way to get this done is we need to create 2D geometry, and that can be used with the drawing commands or the draw tools. The easiest for me to show you is going to be using probably the circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on my work plane, specify the center point, and let's do a 1-inch radius circle. And then I'm going to create another circle starting from the same center point, and this time we'll make it radius 2 inches. And I'll bring it back to start a new circle, and we'll make this 1.5. And so right now I've got these 3 circles on the same plane, alright, and I'm just holding down the shift key and my middle mouse wheel to orbit and change my view. And I'm going to change from 2D wireframe to something 3D. Any of these other visualization styles, they're all 3D visualization styles. So I'm going to change to conceptual, and I don't need this little warning. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of these rings, and you'll see that the gizmo pops up, this blue, green, and red arrow set. That's my move gizmo, and I'm going to highlight over the blue, hover over the blue, give it a click, and kind of drag it up in the Z axis. I'm going to hit escape to kind of clear out my selection, and then you can see as I orbit around, that ring is definitely hovering over the other 2. So now I'm going to take the largest ring and do the same thing. Bring it all the way up. Hit escape to clear out my selection, and I have this inverted cone almost. So I have a smaller ring, a medium ring, and a large ring. And what we can do is I'm going to throw in just a different shape. I'm going to throw in a rectangle on the very bottom here, and it's going to be a little uneven, but that's okay. And I'm going to click on that and drag it to be almost the 4th stage. So if I hover now, you can see that I've got 4 levels of 2D geometry. And using the Loft tool, click on Loft. You basically have to decide what order this is going to go in. So you can either stop from the top and work your way down, or start from the bottom and work your way up. But you can't jump around from level to level. It has to go in order. So I'm going to start from the bottom, left click, left click, left click, and left click. And you can see that it goes from cross section to cross section, lofting those 2 shapes. So especially here, going from a circular shape to a rectangular shape. Now once I'm done lofting, I'm going to hit the enter key, and it's going to give me some options. Options are I can use guides, which will be some kind of line work on the sides of my part. I can choose a path, which will be a central line type, cross sections only, which is where we're currently at, or I can change some settings about how the lofting goes from one cross section to another. So right now we don't have any guides or paths, so I'm going to choose settings, and that brings up the loft settings. Right now it's set to smooth fit. What we can choose is normal to. So we're going to normal to the various planes. If you click normal to, that kind of makes sure that there's a smooth tangent transition after and before we reach the next cross section. So I'm going to keep that normal to. I'm going to hit OK, and we've got our solid that is lofted. All right, this side is a little bit strange because of where my rectangle was, but that is essentially lofting cross sections. Okay, now I'm going to pan over here, and I'm going to start again, This time I'm going to create some rectangles. And maybe throw in a circle there for good measure. I'm not being very specific about this. And like I said, this is the easiest way. Create your geometry either one at a time or on the plane. And then you can use the gizmo to just move those elements where they need to be. If I need to be very specific, I move my gizmo up and I say, yep, I need it to be 4 inches above the current plane, and that's what it does. So now that I've got this kind of setup, I need to create a path. All right, the easiest way for the path to happen is to go up through the center, and I can control how it moves up from cross-section to cross-section. So the easiest way to do that is for me to use my 3-point coordinate system and change where the UCS is currently. So I am going to shift right click, and I would like to have the geometric center. There you are. And there's my geometric center. And I'm going to click the midpoint between 2 points, or maybe I'll do the midpoint of the line. That's a little easier. There's midpoint of the line. That's to establish my x-axis. And I'm going to shift right click, choose midpoint, and the midpoint of this line. That establishes my y-axis. So now I'm theoretically in the center of this part, and I want to change the plane so that I'm drawing on the x and y. So I'm going to rotate about the x-axis. Go back to my coordinates, and you can see how I'm rotating about the x-axis, and I want to lift that plane up so it's looking at me. So 90 degrees, hit enter, and you can see our view cube is now top, and my grid is basically in the center of that rectangle. All right, so it's like I'm drawing on the wall now. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the open up the line tool and go to the spline command. That's probably the easiest. And from the spline command, I'm going to shift right click, see if I can get the geometric center. There it is. And I'm going to be clicking from one cross section. I just hit the center over there to another cross section. And I'm going to shift right click and get back to the geometric center and hit enter to finish out my command. So basically I created a path that the transitions will follow. So I'm going to go create my loft, select my first cross section, select my second cross section, select my third cross section, hitting enter. All right, now that I'm done, I want to also choose the path. So I'm going to left click on the path, and it didn't like it. Entity not valid. All right, so there might be something in this path that I might need to change. I'm going to take a good closer look at it, and yes, it looks like it wiggles. If I click on the right, it looks like it wiggles in 3D instead of in a straight line. From this view, I should be able to see it in a straight line. From the other view, it should have some sort of wiggle. So that's why it didn't like it. So I'm going to try again. I'm going to be really careful this time and start from shift right click, my geometric center. And I'm going to try to hit these points. Geometric center. And hit enter, and I'm going to take a look, and still looks like it has some wiggle there, so that's probably not going to work, but I'm going to try it anyways. 1, 2, 3, hit enter, select my path. That time it worked. Alright, So the path basically controlled how it went from cross-section to cross-section. Using a guide is somewhat similar, but instead of controlling the center of how it moves, the guides are going to control what the outside is going to do. And you can do this on multiple sides. You can have it on 2 sides, on 1 side, on all 4 sides. That's perfectly up to you. So again, spline fit. And I'm going to try going from this corner clicking. Looks like it jumped on me a little bit there. It's a little bit all over the place. I'm going to hit escape. What I'm going to do for this is I'm going to create a region. And the reason for this is so I have a better place to click. I have quadrants that I can click to, because otherwise it's not going to recognize it. So I'm going to select this one as a region, and now that it's a region, I should have a quadrant to click to. So I'm going to use the spline tool again, and I'm going to click from the endpoint to actually, you know what? The endpoint is not going to work. I'm going to need the midpoint. So snap to midpoint, and I'm going to come out a little bit and snap to the quadrant. There we go. And snap to the midpoint again on this rectangle and hit enter. So the thing with guides is that it should intersect each cross section, all right, relatively in the same spot. So let's try using the loft again. So 1, 2, 3, and hitting enter. And this time I'm going to select guides. I'm going to select this as my guide, and you can see that it takes the outer form of that guide. Now I didn't apply anything to the other side, to the opposite side, so it's going to do what it thinks it needs to do. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter, and that basically creates my loft. All right. So there are numerous ways to create how your cross sections are going to be joined, but that in essence is the loft tool.